Welcome back, guys, to the Artful Podcast. It's Matteo here, your host, and this is my podcast. I'm an artist, and in this podcast, we talk with some really interesting people. So before we start with the interview, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel to grow and for me to contact new people, new artists, and they are more willing to have a chat with me if the numbers are bigger. So really quick there. I'm just gonna start with the interview, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe, and all the links below, they're all related to the artist that I'm interviewing every time, and to my Instagram and their Instagram, so don't forget to check it out. Please, again, subscribe to the channel and enjoy the studio shot. Is that in your studio? Have you got your studio?
No, it's funny. I had this conversation with him. My husband said to me, "Why don't you build yourself a studio? Because you have all this stuff, and it's taking over the house." and I was this close to it, and I just thought, "No, I don't deserve it." And he went, "What?" And we had that conversation again in the car coming from the station. So I'm sitting in the conservatory.
Okay. Is that where you work usually?
Oh, okay. Yes, because you know what it's like. You need light.
Yeah, natural light is perfect. Yeah, is it?
But for me, it's not just about natural light. I need light.
Okay. as ever, you need sun.
Yeah.
It's a bit difficult in UK.
Yes, this is true. But I think it's a bit like I went on a course. I don't know if you've heard of it, to Newlyn Art School, which is in Cornwall. It's quite a well-known art school. But Newlyn is an area in Cornwall that attracted lots of artists in the past.
Okay.
And it has its own microclimate, but it's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
There's one of the local artists here. She's just moved there, and she's in seventh heaven.
She's loving it.
She likes impressionist style of painting, so she's got all the water, and she's got the sky, and she's got the countryside, and she's got the flowers. And she doesn't want to talk to anyone.
that sounds pretty good life.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyway, thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. I was enjoying a little bit of your art, and I think it was really good, and I was curious about your journey, and I want to have a conversation about it. Why not?
What made you switch from just audio to visual, apart from it's on YouTube?
It's I started because I always wanted to have a video, but just because I think it gives a more dynamic, even for more like a young audience kind of thing. It's just something that I wasn't sure at the beginning to jump into it straight away. So I start doing it only on audio, just to find myself even comfortable with this, and find a good rhythm and stuff like that. So when I felt that I was okay to start doing video, even because it brings a different connection with the person that I'm talking to. It's I think it's a nice way even to meet people that I probably never gonna meet in real life.
That's true.
Yeah, I was talking to a comic artist that he lives in Tennessee a few episodes ago. So I was like, yeah, it's somebody that I'm probably never gonna meet, but it was nice. It was nice to have a face as well while I was looking at what I was talking about his practice. Into the episode, we have a really nice artist, and I was really curious about her practice and having a little chat with her. And why you don't introduce yourself?
Right, that was a really good segue into avoiding pronouncing my name.
I was
Yeah,
not sure.
nice one.
I was not sure how.
Yeah, no, I
So
read it.
I
Yeah.
avoided.
Well, here I am. And my name is YESIDE.
Yesterday.
YESIDE Linney. And I live outside London. I live on the Surrey-Hampshire border. And very briefly, as a timeline, I came over here on my own when I was 4.5. And
on your own?
On my own, virtually educated in England, going occasionally back to Nigeria where I was born, and educated, went to university, ended up being a teacher of English in secondary schools, and then when I retired at the age of 60, so that's 10 years ago, well, 62, 8 years ago.
Oh, God.
A friend bought me a voucher for an art workshop, and I pulled a face because I just thought, this is what old people do when they retire, because they can't think of anything else to do. The default position, especially in this area, is let's take up watercolor. And I just thought, I don't want to do watercolor. And I wasn't, and all the art I saw was, I hope no one's listening to this. All the art that I saw was very traditional and quite tight.
Okay.
From my perspective at the time, because you learn to see better as the years go on. And when I was lucky that the girl whose workshop I went to, she's very contemporary.
Okay.
And such a lovely manner. It's very relaxed. And I just thought, this is fun. Where have I been all my life? but that is interesting because I actually did art at school back in the day. And
were you always interested in this sort of like discipline, even in school?
Yes,
or?
and the thing, when I said that when I say that I didn't see myself retiring and doing art, I have always been interested in art. We go to galleries a lot, and when we're traveling, because we can't travel at the moment, but when we're traveling, we have to hit an art gallery, in Japan, in Peru.
It's one of my like it has to be done when we go travel, me and my girlfriend, and for sure.
But you just have to. I mean, it's like the Shanghai Museum is just amazing, and I just love just seeing other artists. But it's interesting when I look back, because I've had a strange journey with art. And so when I was very young, my guardians used to lock me in a room with Frans Hal's Laughing Cavalier.
Oh, okay.
And you know the eyes, a bit like Mona Lisa eyes, they follow you wherever. So I used to have nightmares about this cavalier. And when they used to lock me in this room as a punishment, I used to try hiding under the sofa, but it would find me.
Trying to escape from the
make
high.
horror films out of things like this, Matthew.
Yeah.
And then when I was at school, because I was at boarding school, when I was at school, the art teacher that I had when I was 14 introduced me to El Greco, which was quite unusual for art teachers at that time. And I was very fascinated by the elongated figures.
Oh, interesting.
And that sort of changed that, because I was always afraid of art because of that cavalier.
Ah, okay. Were you afraid on like understanding it, or like try to ever go?
It was a child perspective. I just saw the cavalier for me represented art when I was under the age of 13. and then and then the art teacher just almost relaxed my brain.
Make you see in a different
and
perspective.
made it see it differently. But then because of my heritage, because you're not supposed to do anything creative. You're supposed to stick to academia. My father threw a complete wobbly from the distance and say, "Get that girl out of the art lessons." I didn't send her to do art. So that's it's quite interesting, and I've always resented that, and so it's almost like you go into a public place and you find a parking spot. It found a parking spot that I needed to come back to later in life.
Nice.
And I've sort of picked it up over the years. And my daughter, who's now 40, she likes to just draw, and she took exams quite early, but didn't go on. But I think I've when I did this workshop, I suddenly thought I'm going to be on a mission now for making up for lost time. You know how you get these books, 101 things to do before I die? I'm thinking I could be dead in 5 years' time, and I've got so much to do. and I think I feel I've gone into like an art ADHD, really hyper, thinking, I want to try this, I want to try that. And so
that's really interesting, because obviously most of the people, they start doing art early on in their life, or if it's not like in the teens, like usually it's like 20s or 30s latest. But obviously it's a different perspective starting after, like, you've been through a lot and after all your life and later in your life. And it could be, it's a different perspective. It's really interesting to hear that. And it's really curious. You're really curious to see where you can go.
Well, I think sometimes because of people that I've met through art in life and on Instagram during lockdown, because the whole community has been amazing. But I think occasionally I think, oh gosh, I feel as though I've missed out because of that disciplined background or going to art school. But then I was watching Greg Mason, who was I think he was a finalist, or he won Portrait Artist of the Year some years ago, and he was doing Portrait Artist of the Week, that series they did on Facebook. And he was doing a Cass Art interview yesterday, and he was just saying, I've got no training at all. And I just went, but it's just, for me, it's like it's like being in a box of delights, and I've got so much to choose from. And so, as you can see from looking at the Instagram, that there isn't a definitive style.
I saw when I went as well on your website, there was a lot of different styles, different from landscape to paint to portrait to abstract, and it's really interesting, and to understand even how can you approach all these different styles. And now I can understand, because obviously, like, you're just trying out, and it's really fun to hear that. And sometimes you get stuck as an artist, you get stuck in your style, you get stuck in your in what you can do and what you're supposed to do, and you don't give it a shot, and it's a shame sometimes.
It's interesting you use the word supposed to do, whereas I don't know if you read the introduction to myself, it's my mantra, which is the Hockney phrase, is I paint what I please, when I please, and where I please. and it's not to sound aggressive about it. It's because for me, I think even if I started earlier, although you change as you get older, for me, honing a particular style, I'm not obsessing about anymore, because I think I'm mood driven rather than style driven.
Oh, okay.
If that makes
sense. So
it's
more what you feel like to do than what you're supposed to do, like were you good at it, or you just, if you think
well the thing is, I'm trying to, and I think when I was teaching, I was always saying that, so your voice is very important. And I always used to say, don't pigeonhole yourself. And I think that's and for me, I haven't got time to pigeonhole myself because I get so excited by people like you, lots of artists, because for me, other artists are a resource to my ongoing learning. And I think that's why my Instagram profile, I say I'm eclectic. I think at first, when I first made my account public on Instagram, I found it embarrassing.
It's really difficult putting stuff out there, and
but now I think probably as a result of being in lockdown, it's not important to me. I don't know how you feel about things like that. Do you feel that you need to be shoehorned?
No, it's more for what I am right now in my practice. It's more try to find my my way of saying what I want to say. And I'm really interested in a human form, in portrait, in people, and I do tackle sometimes like some social problems,
issues.
which issue that I think that it's as an artist, it's good if you wanna talk about it, and if you wanna express yourself through art. So, and people, it's really more what I've been driven during my practice, and I find it really difficult to jump out that that little box that that's portrait. But for example, actually, this is really interesting that come out. My last exhibition that I did in Bristol was just before the lockdown, and for the first time, I did a few exhibitions before, and I always exhibit portrait drawings, but it was always portrait driven. And like into my circle, people knew what they knew what they were expecting to go and see in my exhibition, because obviously that's what I've been doing for like years and years. But I did decide to put like a sort of installation, which nobody did expect that, and it was really scary for me. It was a little bit of a rush of like adrenaline, because it was like the first time I was exhibiting my portrait, because I was like, oh, I don't know how people are gonna take, but after a while you kind of lose that, and exhibiting that different of like installation, for example, in my case, I got the rush again. I was like, oh, I'm curious to see what people are gonna say to me about that, because they are not gonna expect anything like that from me. And it was really interesting to hear, obviously, like people talking to me and asking me about it. And it was it's difficult to jump out what you usually
but I think that's really important, because because I did a sort of like a self review a few weeks ago, and I was just thinking, you know, what do I want my art to do? And I think essentially I want my art to surprise and engage. And the surprise could be through the color, could be through the subject matter, it could be through the title even, but also by engaging. And it's a way I would like to move towards is to introduce more narrative, because like you, surprisingly, I'm, you know, although not evident at the moment, I'm interested in portraits because I find people fascinating.
Yeah.
And I would like to introduce more of a narrative into what I want, into what I do. And I've actually I've made quite a lot of notes and sort of little thumbnail sketches on things that I want to work towards.
Yeah, it's really important for especially a creative person to challenge yourself and bring your mind to think about again, and about your subject and why you're doing art, and why you're doing art in that way, and always questioning yourself, always asking yourself, and obviously jumping from a media to another, from a subject to another, could be that challenge that brings your creativity alive again. And it's really important, so important to
and I think, and you probably found that when you had your portrait exhibition with your installations, people will start looking at it relatively, and just seeing and probably seeing some of what you do in the installation, what they expected from you in the installation, but you pushed the boundary, haven't you?
Push your personal boundary. It's true. And it's always,
and you've pushed the perception as well, haven't you?
It's completely like even if it's completely different subject, but it's from the same person, from the same artist. So it's revealing another side of you to the audience that they did not expect from me in my case. And it was really interesting to see the reaction, and people were just surprised and happy to see something new and different from me. And it was really good. It just pushed me to believe in doing more and more and more in different stuff, which I'm trying to do. It's just like really scary to put stuff out there. I just keep in my little corner.
I'm finding it scary because in fact there's something in my email asking me to submit work for something else which I can't talk about at the moment. But I'm doing. We have, as you have in London, we have open art studios, and someone invited me to exhibit with her.
Nice.
And I went from being very excited to
of course.
and in fact I've been invited to exhibit in 5 other locations this year, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make a fool of myself. But it's this whole thing of the imposter syndrome that we have as artists, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should I be here?
It's always like you never think of yourself that you deserve that, and you deserve to be in the center of the attention of everybody in that night. But we've been nominated, we've been saying the horrible word that this year like it's been hunting us for, like the lockdown. How did you deal with the lockdown?
I love the way you say hunting us.
We are not getting out the lockdown, like no ever. We are never gonna get out of the lockdown apparently. How did you deal with that? Did you manage to do work? Were you happy in a way?
I think with the first 2 lockdowns, I was quite happy. Obviously, missing family
Yeah.
was for me, and some friends who I was able to wave to in the distance, because technically you weren't supposed to be walking with them or anything in the first lockdown.
Yeah.
But for me, in the first lockdown, because I was focusing on landscapes, I found it, because I'll come on to it in a minute, I'm quite a bit of a polymath. I tend to get involved in lots of things. And because I'm just super excited all the time about things. And so for me, it meant there were certain things that weren't normally accessible to me. And suddenly I had all this time and I thought, oh, wow, fantastic. I can just paint and I can just draw, and I don't have to clear the table for people to come and sit around the table.
Yeah.
I just thought this is and then I think as we came out of the first lockdown, I just thought, I don't want to see anybody. I just want to get on with it. I think seriously, it was for me, it was good. Instagram, I think, was a double-edged sword, because once I decided to put myself out there, there was the fear of doing it, but also I've got to know a lot of artists through it, and I've made virtual friends, and I'm now going to see exhibitions with some that I've
some
met.
of them.
Yeah. And see their exhibitions, and some of them are having solo exhibitions as well, which I find very exciting. But so from that point of view, from that sort of enrichment of experiencing with other artists, that was fantastic. But also I think giving myself time to just play, permission to play.
That's important as well. Yeah, to try to that's so interesting you say that, because that's what I did during the lockdowns. It was the opportunity for me to just try different stuff, because I was getting quite a lot of momentum just before the lockdown, and people were asking me to do what I was doing for like years. My charcoal drawings, my really up close portraits. So it was really good for me because people were interested in my stuff, but I was kind of stuck in that. And because of lockdown, few things that were being postponed. So they gave me, obviously I had all the time in the world to work on new stuff and different stuff, and using more color, maybe different paintings, different way of painting. So it was it was a really good time for me to play around, literally just play around. Don't treasure that canvas, don't think that's gonna be the new masterpiece. It's that's always in my mind now. I'm always
but because I think it's important, because the process is really important. Because I think there's too much emphasis on the end product,
the result. The
result, when the journey can be horrendous at times. But also it can be quite exciting, because sometimes you get the happy accidents, as you know, and you surprise yourself as well sometimes. And because sometimes I've had some work framed recently, and I've been in a sort of thing, oh God, I shouldn't be doing this, and then I've got all this framing that's come back, and I've got, oh my God, did I do that? moment. But it passes because I'm already moving on, to the next thing. But I think it was a really important time. Also, I think it was quite interesting to see, because I used to think in my mind about I did 3 pieces of work which were connected through mental health series, because a lot of people were talking about mental health, and to me, because I'm lucky, as you can see from my garden is an example that the whole area that I'm in is an area of natural beauty.
Nice.
So there's expanses of places I can lose people, and just being with nature, I think, is really lovely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I love going up to London. Don't get me wrong, because I couldn't do without it.
Yeah,
easy access to all that I like there. But so the mental health series would only have come out because of lockdown, and because I was looking at I think, so just listening to people who were finding it very difficult, and then trying to translate the same concept into the drawing, into the paintings.
Yeah,
and that wouldn't have come out because unless we'd been in. Well, it might have done, but I think it would have been unlikely.
It would be different for sure. Yeah, it's kind of like using the situation in your advantage and try to squeeze every single good thing.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, I don't know about you, but I find myself making more impulsive decisions, because it didn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and there were no deadlines,
Yeah. If you mess it up, it just
yeah, and you just do it, don't you? It's a bit like the writer's name has gone out of my head, where he says, fail better. And it's almost, it doesn't matter, if
failure is really important in art life, in artistic life. It's and we, as an artist, you learn that really soon in your practice.
And sometimes it hurts.
It does, yeah. But it's good. It's something that you need to.
It's good. Yeah,
you need to learn how to deal with that and bring in your advantage for sure. Is that did your practice change during time, even because of lockdown, or
yes, definitely. I think definitely, because in terms of sometimes, as I keep mentioning, that for me, the whole art is just is a journey. I nearly used the word just. That's really bad. And I I've only been painting for just over 5 years, and I think, in the 5 years, I think I've done quite well in that people will buy the paintings. But I think in terms of materials I use, as well as, like using perhaps the palette knife more.
Okay.
And sometimes it was the space that I chose to work in, sometimes dictated how things came. But I think the most important thing is that I think this style became freer, whereas before it was quite tight.
Do you felt more confident to
use?
Yes,
it may be to do with confidence, because I think some of it felt, I look back now, some of it felt a little bit formulaic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you know how sometimes when you look at portraits, paintings, and you say, technically that's good.
Yeah.
But what else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always that little the little extra that you try to find in the paintings and drawings, and try to make when you make paintings.
So I'd say definitely what I do is a lot looser.
Nice.
Than it was before. And I will and I was quite interested during lockdown. A lot of the palette was on the blue spectrum.
Did you
And
try to
then,
find out why? Were
I
you
think it
feeling?
was just,
It was just a feeling.
I think it was a subconscious, reflection of the time, because you can't always analyze.
Yeah. It's more like the mood.
Till after, because someone said to me, "Oh, why do you say you hate blue? Because all your paintings have been blue." And I just looked and I thought, oh my God, that blue is not my color. Look at me, I'm wearing yellow, And I think as I came out of lockdown, the colors got brighter, and which is very much more me. It's got more energy. It looks, I hope it looks a little bit more, it's not only loose, but it looks, I think it's going the way I hope it's going, that it's inviting more of a narrative. I talked about this before. I'm not trying to force it.
Nice. Try to make a natural come out.
Yeah,
natural.
so it'll get there. But in my head, in my head, there are going to be lots of figures, in the future.
Nice.
We'll
do you
see.
Because obviously even your style of painting, it's pretty loose, it's pretty even in your landscape, how do you work with? Do you work from photos, or it's more imagination, or you prefer to be on a spot and paint?
I would like, I'm not a plein air person, mainly because if there's a threat of me getting cold, it will reflect in what I do.
Yeah.
And also, I think I find it difficult to edit. You really do have to edit with plein air, and I would spend so much time enjoying everything that I would find it, because there'd be so much for me to choose from, and then there's the discipline of actually getting on with it, and I think I don't like the idea of somebody arriving and looking over my shoulder. That's probably got a lot to do with it. And as my husband said, so why did you go in for Landscape Artist of the Year?
Yeah.
But I mainly, because my husband is an amazing photographer, so I often say, can you, when you go out with the dog, could you go by the lake? and could you get up really early in the morning, because I want this light. I don't demand much. but I think and he does take really good photographs, and I sometimes come across situations, but I've noticed that particularly what usually happens is I might start off from it, and then I will start to abstract it. So it ends up almost like an abstract impressionism.
Very interesting. You using mostly like your references from your husband picture.
Yes,
that's really own. Yeah, that's really good.
But sometimes sometimes I went through a cubist phase and a fauvist phase, and in which case that will be from my imagination.
Yeah, sometimes you just go with it, and
well, sometimes I just think, oh, that's a really good idea, and if I've been to a life drawing class, I think, oh yeah, I can use that.
That's good. You said that I even asked you before start doing this, like your experience of Landscape Artist of the Year, which is really curious, because I don't get that many artists that had the chance to participate, or such like a really big program like that, especially because there are not that many programs for artists.
No.
And yeah, how was your experience with the show?
Yeah, that whole thing is, if I come over as quite, quite open, quite adventurous. Inside, I'm scared. I literally submitted this because they extended the deadline, and I just thought, and I think, and that's another thing out of isolation, being in the lockdown, is that there was no, apart from my husband, there's no one, or WhatsApping my daughter or my son. There was no one really to give me any kind of affirmation, because he will tell me the truth. He'll say that is rubbish, and you're never quite sure on Instagram whether somebody's being genuine or they're just liking it, because you're not quite sure. And I think I was because I'm not a morning person. I tend to paint into quite late at night, which negates what I said earlier about needing light. And my husband has got me this beam of light. I don't know if you can see it here. Because I was working so late at night, to give me a bit more light. And I was working quite late, and I just thought, and I had a glass of wine in my hand, or the second glass, and I just thought, I'm going to hit that button, and I'm going to, and I think, how sometimes you do things and you don't know why you do them.
You're like, why even bother? But
so I think part of me, and it's almost like, with technology, you get all these bots and everything, and people who troll you, the computer's there, and sometimes it doesn't seem real when you upload something and submit it. So I think I just submitted it, and then when I got the call, I thought it was a spam. I thought it was I thought it's one of these hoax callers,
Yeah.
And then you get an interview. Just to make sure you're not a nutter, I think. And I had
which is always good check-in. You never know.
Exactly. So I had an hour of interview, and I had 3 options to pull out. I had 3 opportunities to pull out.
Okay.
Because are you sure you're comfortable doing this? The camera's going to be on you. If your reserve. And that we often just have somebody who doesn't turn up. Are you okay? You sure you're okay with this? 3 times that was it. It's almost like the Judas scene, And I kept saying to myself, not everybody gets this opportunity, because part of me thinking, oh shit, what have I done? Do I really want to put myself out there? Do I deserve to be put out there? And then when we arrived at the location, I think I was really physically ill. I couldn't sleep the night before. I was thinking, and then I had to hang around waiting to the last minute to see if anybody had dropped out, and the relief that I felt. And they said if everybody turns up, you can join the wild cards. And I hadn't realized that you can apply separately to be a wild card. I didn't realize that. And so that was great. So I was in with people who I think almost treat it like a Butlins holiday, should I say? I shouldn't say that. They do it every year. They do it every year. That I shouldn't use that phrase, because that implies dumbing down. Which there were a lot of good people there. I made friends with one print artist who is fascinating, and but it was just fascinating, just being behind the scenes.
Yeah, because obviously, like, you see the edit part, and everybody's happy, everybody's everything's amazing.
And also it's quite interesting watching people who were quite confident, and some people who almost expected to be chosen, which I thought, whoa, really?
Yeah.
And you saw there's one guy who started off really well, and his wife was almost mentoring him. You felt as though he was on some kind of coaching program. And he went from doing what, because he quickly knocked up something. It was at Chartwell, and he quickly knocked up this amazing piece, and then he spent the next hour destroying it, or virtually. And I thought, oh my God, how did you get there? And of course he would, and it reflected, and he was a very tall guy. I mean, I'm only just 5 foot, and he was getting on for 7. And we were near each other, even though we were socially distanced. And he could see this tall guy getting shorter than me, through despair.
Was he happy with the result, or
no? He was, and he ended up going off in a tantrum before the end.
Oh, God.
Which I thought was quite a shame. But I think what was also interesting was when the judges were making the final decision, because they encourage you to come round, and you watch the filming of it and the retakes, and the discussion that goes on. So when you see it for real, you realize how heavily edited it is.
Imagine, yeah.
And I think also, for anyone who happens to watch this edition, it's a good thing to be part of, because I think I always feel the art community is quite safe on the whole, and there's a lovely sort of the program, I think, is improved over the years, and there's a lovely, I don't know, it's like a supportive, nurturing,
nice
atmosphere. It's really good. You ought to try the portrait artist of the year.
Yeah, I did want to submit a couple of times. I was really close to apply for it, but then in the end I was like, probably it's not even worth it and stuff like that. But it's what we were talking about before. Like, am I even like, they're even gonna look at my stuff? Or
yeah, but I think the thing is, I haven't. Lots of people have messaged me saying, you really should apply again this year, and no one seems to understand that. I just feel it's a great thing to do, but it's not for me.
Yeah, especially if you know what it's gonna be like, you have a clear idea.
It's not even that. It's just that it's not. I think the first time around it was all about being afraid of putting myself out there and not feeling I should be there, even though I got selected to be reserved. But I think for me, there is so much I want to do, and I don't want that to. I really don't need that to get in the way.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, no, you don't want to kind of be refined in the people see you that way.
Yeah, I don't want that to define me.
No, it makes sense. And in the end, it's just like it's an experience. Like, it doesn't have.
Yeah, exactly. And there are lots of other experiences I might end up getting, which I am getting.
Yeah. So,
and I find those satisfying.
Is a particular reason why did you choose to start art and start doing an actually practicing art? Because you said you start obviously like later on. but you've been doing it for 5 years now. And was it something that they clicked once you actually start doing it, and you were like, oh, I might give it a go, like it's I love this and why not?
And I think it was, as I said, that just being at the workshop and being with people is like, in a workshop is like being at a mini gallery, and you think, oh, she's interpreting or he's interpreting it like that. That's really exciting. I want to have a go.
Yeah, yeah. The whole environment around you.
Yeah, the whole environment. It's a bit like a kid with lots of toys, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a kid there with a got toy, and you think, oh, I want that toy. And I want that, and I think it's and also I think because you know, when you as you know, when you get into art, if you look at somebody's face, and I look at surroundings, you see things differently, don't you?
Yeah,
because you start editing what you look. You it's not something that you say, you start, you know, breaking it down. Your brain automatically does that.
it does. Yeah. It happens to me with like people that I see every day, especially.
Yeah.
I start to notice like different part of the face and the shapes that will help to make the drawing. And it's a bit weird because I try to explain it to my girlfriend, but she doesn't get it. She's
doesn't
like,
understand.
she's like, she just says you're weird. And
no, yeah, because you know, sometimes I've had near accidents in the car, you know, because I'm coming over the brow of the hill. I think, oh my God, look at the shapes in the sky. You know?
Yeah. Look at the color. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to stop, you know, I'm thinking, whoa, this lorry's going past me. I'm thinking, I'm dead. But yes, I think it's also, I'm just fascinated by color and how people use color. I went to an interesting exhibition I think where I think it was after the second lockdown, where I sort of started to go into a sort of doldrum phase, and then in September I went to see the Nigerian figurative artist. I don't know if you saw her, Toyin Odutola, exhibition at the Barbican, and I just found it really fascinating, the way in which she used. It's just black and white. I mean, if you look at her work, you'll be able to see her work. But she had something called, sorry, my eyes are hurting.
That's all right.
She did this really deeply moving intellectual exhibition, which she called the countervailing theory, and she created this like fictional prehistorical civilization dominated by females. Female rulers served by male laborers, so sort of like a reverse concept. But she, well, it's through. Well, part of it was she used that to she said through drawing that it was how she would cope with racism and sexism and you know, and cultural friction. And I just found it's exhibitions like that make me want to come back and reassess what I'm doing. I don't consciously think it, but I come back and think, and you live with it, you sit with it, don't you?
Yeah, you get excited, and the fire comes back, and you're like you can't wait to put it on your practice.
Yeah, but I find that the way in which she explored mythology, and I think also it's just I think because I also learned Spanish. have Spanish one-to-one every week, just conversation, just keep going. But I find and I like Spanish literature, and nice. I like drawing on literature sometimes, and I think that sometimes when I was teaching, I always used to, because not everybody learns in the same way, I used to say to students, while I'm reading this, or whether it's part from novel or poem, I say draw. And I was always get them to draw, because if they drew, and I think that's why I think drawing's so important, if they drew, they would see the imagery.
It was stuck in more with them, will stay.
Yes, because we all have ways of seeing, which, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And so I think draw, just so I think for me, I do need to draw more. because it's sort of underpins everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I just find, I'm just fascinated by the way shapes relate to each other. I think that's what excites me, the way, and shapes can not necessarily be physical shapes, it can be color.
Okay, know what you mean. Interesting. That's really interesting. Is
it's like tonal value, really.
Do you have a routine that you try to stick with it, or is that more when you're feeling the need to paint or the need to draw?
I do try to stick to a routine, but because I'm a keen tennis player,
okay.
And exercise is very important to me. And there's a part of me is a bit competitive, although I claim not to be.
It's good. Competition is good.
I know, because I'm not a morning person, I will tend to be doing some kind of fitness in the morning, or in terms of Pilates, running, or whatever, or tennis. So my head is clear. So I hope that by lunchtime I will then be doing something in the afternoon, and
start
then
the day.
Yes, and then what tends to happen is I get locked in, and meals don't matter. I don't know about you, but I just get locked in.
Yeah.
And I can be locked in till it's not very good for your personal relationships.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I don't know if you have this, but
I completely agree. Yeah.
If I'm locked into my painting, you do not come near me.
Yeah, personal. Yeah, it's I lost many friends because of that.
I love it.
It's like I prefer stay home and do my things. Can we just keep the coffee?
do you enjoy that isolation of painting?
I do. Unfortunately, I do a little bit. I do a little bit much. It's a bit too much, to be honest, sometimes. I do. Yeah.
I'm surprised you've got a girlfriend.
I do have a girlfriend, and she needs to deal with me every day. I'm sorry for her sometimes.
Bless her.
But yeah,
whoever you are, I sympathize.
It's so funny because I do try. I'm literally like quite social. Like I'm really happy person in general, but
yeah,
I tend to isolate myself, and obviously like because I live with my girlfriend, like she sees that, and sometimes she's the one like snap me out, like you need to see your friends.
You need to get out.
Yeah, you need to get out. It's important as well. That side of life in general, like having relationship and talking and experience that kind of things, which is good. But yeah, I do tend to isolate myself a little bit more than what normal people do. But anyway, I don't want to keep you for too long. It was such an amazing conversation. I love your energy. It was so good.
Thank you. Well, it's been a treat being with you.
It was amazing. Thank you to be part of the podcast, and
yeah,
again, we'll keep in touch, and for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to keep in touch.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.